Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. Joining me right now is Chris Plante. He is the Communications Director for the National Organization for Marriage. Mr. Plante, thanks for being with us.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so we're going to talk about this new decision coming from the IRS and the Treasury Department and Secretary Jack Lew under the Obama administration. They've just announced that when it comes to income taxes, legally married same-sex couples would now be treated the same as everyone else who is legally married in every state. The move follows a landmark decision by the Supreme Court this summer, which struck down the Federal Defense of Marriage Act. Now, Mr. Plante, this move must not have been a surprise for your organization, though, knowing who's in charge, at least at the IRS and at the Treasury Department and after the Supreme Court ruling, right?
No, there's no surprise, but the fact is that the Treasury Department has grossly overstepped its authority. It's up to Congress to create the laws and the laws that apply to the IRS, and so while they claim to be trying to create uniformity in federal law as opposed to taxes, it was the exact same rationale that led them to the Defense of Marriage Act decision this summer, and they stand in conflict with each other. This is a gross misstep by the administration.
Now, the argument can certainly be made that this forces same-sex marriage on states where it is not legal at this time. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that states that collect state income tax, because not all of them do, have to recognize same-sex couples for the purposes of state income tax. So do you think that this, though, forces the issue of same-sex marriage on states where it's currently not legal?
Well, at the very least, what it does is it opens up the court of law, and there will be a myriad of lawsuits filed claiming that's exactly what this does and that states must now recognize same-sex marriage. We don't believe that they have to. We believe the DOMA decision this summer obviously was a mistake. But what is more important here is that this ruling just creates all sorts of confusion, and it will result in lawsuits. It will result in states not sure what to do, and the fact of the matter is states do have the right to define marriage as they see fit. That is still Section 2 of the Defense of Marriage Act.
Now, some might say this is another loss for proponents of traditional marriage. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that at all. This is the Treasury Department going outside the bounds of its own authority. But we're not surprised by this. The president himself and the Department of Justice, they failed to defend the Defense of Marriage Act in the beginning in the First Circuit Court of Appeals. So they've already abdicated their role, and so it's no surprise the Treasury Department has done this. It is part and parcel of a movement that we're seeing across the country for administrators or bureaucrats or county clerks even to take the law into their own hands and try to redefine marriage.
Now, of course, there are a lot of folks, including yourself, on the side of traditional marriage who would say and have said that the IRS and the Treasury Department simply can't do this. We just heard you say this. Congress needs to ratify these kinds of changes. But considering that the Supreme Court has already tossed out DOMA, what would you say, or what would you propose to Congress as a solution to deal with this issue?
Well, our position right now is that we need a federal marriage amendment, quite frankly. We need to go to that position because we cannot have this confusion. We cannot have 50 definitions of marriage across the country. Marriage has predated the United States. It has been a presumed one man and one woman institution until just 2000, the year 2000, when this idea of redefining marriage entered Western civilization and Western thought. It is ludicrous that we're at this point. And so we need to define marriage as one man and one woman, not because we are actually creating it, but because that's what it is. And government has a purpose investing in marriage as one man and one woman because it creates the best place to raise children and the next generation.
Clearly, there are a lot of folks out there who disagree with that standpoint, but you're saying that the only solution to dealing with this issue is a constitutional amendment that defines marriage as a union between one man and one woman.
That may be the end result of this. We've got so many lawsuits going on and so much confusion. But until then, states themselves have to continue to protect marriage as the union of one man and one woman. Indiana, for example, will have a ballot amendment in November of 2014 to define marriage as one man and one woman. We heartily support that.
And how would that be different than what the Proposition 9, or I think it was a Prop 8 or whatever it was in California that got thrown out as well.
Well, Proposition 8 was thrown out it was never heard at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't rule on the merits of Prop 8. They said that the voters did not have standing. And the rulings that came out of the Federal Circuit Court in California, Judge Vaughn Walker in the Ninth Circuit, were ludicrous. The people of Indiana know better. The people of California know better. 7 million voters voted to define marriage as one man and one woman, and their votes were nullified by one homosexual judge who was in a long-term relationship who chose not to recuse himself and not to reveal that information until after the court case. Indiana, Governor Pence has made a strong statement that his state will be the next to vote on this, and we will support that completely. We'll also oppose efforts to repeal we will oppose efforts to repeal amendments in other states, such as Oregon and Ohio, where those people have already voted to define marriage as one man and one woman.
Well, yeah, this debate is still alive and well despite the Supreme Court's decision. And no matter what side you're on the same-sex marriage debate, we can all agree that this is going to make paying and collecting taxes more complicated, the paying side for same-sex couples, because they're going to have to obviously, file their taxes in two different ways if they do pay state income tax in addition to federal income tax. And it's also going to make things more complicated for state governments to collect this tax as well. So we'll see what happens with this. Chris Plante, Communications Director for the National Organization for Marriage, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.